Gopijana Baba Girivaradhari Gopijana Baba Girivaradhari Yasodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Arha Kunja Vihari Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Ram Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtotara Sadashla A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Shri Shri Gaunitai ki, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki, Shri Shri Radhagokulananda ki, Antarashima Bhagavatam ki, Go Premanandi. All glorious to the assembled devotees, all glorious to the assembled devotees, all glorious to the assembled devotees, all glorious to Sri Guru Garanga, all glorious to Sri Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhakti Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Vachari Nene Visesa Sundara Pastachari Shatani. Maybe this is the table for the Bhagavatam. Yeah, this is the Bhagavatam table. So we have a table, we don't have a book. Is there any, I think that there's a daily class, is there? Is there like a weekly class sometimes? Or?
On Sundays.
Pardon?
Only on Sundays.
I mean, Bhagavatam class, I mean. On Sunday you have Bhagavatam class?
Yes.
In the morning? Is there a schedule, is there a sequence of reading or not? Okay, then just grab a Bhagavatam. There's some in the back there, I think. I mean, I can't see very well, but I think there's at least one. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
We're just opened up on this chapter. This is Canto 1, Chapter 15, text number 24. And this is, the chapter is called The Pandavas Retired Timely. I think this is a discussion between Yudhishthira and Arjuna, I think. And Arjuna went to Dwarka, and he's returned to Hastinapura, and he's reporting on the situation in Dwarka, which is not very pleasing because Krishna has left the world. And Arjuna's recounting his unfortunate situation and how without Krishna everything becomes, to say, lifeless, basically. I need something to poke it up a little bit. What can I use? That's not going to work. That definitely won't work. It's got to be angle like this. That's not going to work, is it?
Like this, maybe? Sorry.
I don't know. Yeah, but then I think that box is not very secure, is it? Funny, they make these things are completely impractical. You need something sloping, to do. Prayenitad Bhagavata Ishvarasya Vicheshtitam Mito Negnanti Bhutani Bhavayanti Chayanmitaha. Factually, this is all due to the supreme will of the Lord. I could go back a few verses so we get the thread here. I'm not 100% sure what stage we're at in this discussion. So let's go back a few verses. It's definitely Lord Indra. It is definitely Arjuna speaking, isn't it? During our exile. Just a few verses. O King, Yudhishthira is asking the welfare of the citizens in Dwarka. So text 17. It was by his, meaning Krishna's mercy only, that my enemies neglected to kill me when I descended from my chariot to get water for my thirsty horses. And it is due to my lack of esteem for my Lord that I dared engage him as my chariot driver. So this is definitely Arjuna. For he is worshipped and offered services by the best men to attain salvation. O king, addressing Yudhishthira, I believe, his jokings and frank talks were pleasing and beautifully decorated with smiles. His addresses unto me as, O son of Pritha, O friend, O son of the Kuru dynasty, and all such heartiness are now remembered by me, and thus I am overwhelmed. Generally, both of us used to live together and sleep, sit and loiter together. And at the time of advertising oneself for acts of chivalry, sometimes, if there were any irregularity, I used to reproach him by saying, my friend, you are very truthful. Even in those hours when his value was minimized, he, being the Supreme Soul, used to tolerate all those utterings of mine, excusing me exactly as a true friend excuses his true friend, or a father excuses his son. O Emperor, now I am separated from my friend and dear most well-wisher, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore my heart appears to be void of everything. In his absence I have been defeated by a number of infidel coward men while I was guarding the bodies of all the wives of Krishna. I have the very same Gandiva bow, the same arrows, the same chariot drawn by the same horses, and I use them as the same Arjuna to whom all the kings offered their due respects. But in the absence of Lord Krishna, all of them, at a moment's notice, have become null and void. It is exactly like offering clarified butter on ashes, accumulating money with a magic wand, or sowing seeds on barren land. O king, since you have asked me about our friends and relatives in the city of Dwarka, I will inform you that all of them were cursed by the Brahmins, and as a result, they all became intoxicated with wine made of putrefied rice and fought amongst themselves with sticks, not even recognizing one another. Now all but 4 or 5 of them are dead and gone. Not a very nice report. And today's verse, factually this is all due to the supreme will of the Lord, the personality of Godhead. Sometimes people kill one another, and at other times they protect one another. So here's a purport by Srila Prabhupada. According to the anthropologists, there is nature's law of struggle for existence and survival of the fittest. But they do not know that behind the law of nature is the supreme direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is confirmed that the law of nature is executed under the direction of the Lord. Whenever, therefore, there is peace in the world, it must be known it is due to the goodwill of the Lord. And whenever there is upheaval in the world, it is also due to the supreme will of the Lord. Not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Lord. Whenever, therefore, there is disobedience of the established rules enacted by the Lord, there is war between men and nations. The surest way to the path of peace, therefore, is dovetailing everything to the established rule of the Lord. The established rule is that whatever we do, whatever we eat, whatever we sacrifice, whatever we give in charity, must be done to the full satisfaction of the Lord. No one should do anything, eat anything, sacrifice anything, or give anything in charity against the will of the Lord. Discretion is the better part of valor, and one must learn how to discriminate between actions which may be pleasing to the Lord and those which may not be pleasing to the Lord. An action is thus judged by the Lord's pleasure or displeasure. There is no room for personal whims. We must always be guided by the pleasure of the Lord. Such action is called yoga karmanu koshalam, or actions performed which are linked with the Supreme Lord. That is the art of doing a thing perfectly. Nice purport. Well, it's questionable, you could say, when Prabhupada writes here, course, referring to not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Lord, that when there is upheaval in the world, it is due to the will of the Lord. And when there apparently is peace in the world, it's also due to the will of the Lord. Not a blade of grass moves without his will. So, most of Vaishnavas, devotees, learned persons know the way that this works is not just some whimsical arrangement of the Lord, like child's play, children playing with, toy soldiers or something, or some game you play on now on the mobile. They don't usually have the manifest forms now. They use isn't it? They play these war games on their machines. They don't usually. We used to have figures, actual toy soldiers and things and what have you.
Virtual.
Pardon?
All virtual.
They're virtual now. What they call virtual. It's even more illusionary than the models and so on and so forth that we used to play with. It was not child's play. It's not like Krishna, has got a problem with somebody, and you can give him a hard time or something exactly either. In the Bhagavad Gita we see tamam vajjate tamstataiva bhajamaham. Krishna rewards according to our degree of surrender. So an indication of surrender in this sense, in this verse, or at least in the purport is given by Srila Prabhupada, where he indicates here that those who are disobedient to the laws of God are prone to be punished. And those who are cooperative, when it's laws of God, when it's not exactly, you could say, very pleasing, but in this material world, in a conditioned state, when someone endeavors to follow the God-given dharmam to shukshut, the God-given laws, when someone tries to follow those, that means there's a degree of surrender. Whatever the motive may be, it may be conditioning, because you're born in that situation or something, maybe fear, whatever, or maybe genuine faith, or it could be whatever it is. But anyone who somehow or another is following those rules, to that degree at least, the degree they surrender to those instructions at that point of time, can progress. Now it doesn't mean that they will not actually, again, we see in the world right now, in fact, there's a war going on, I suppose you could. It's kind of war. I mean, it's more than just Russia versus Ukraine. There's many others involved, one way or another, in this conflict. So something is going on there, which is, why does God allow this to go on in Ukraine? Why Ukraine? What's Ukraine done wrong? Anything more than anywhere else? Why not fighting in America? You could perhaps justify that more than Ukraine. Huh? Probably more material. Are you okay? Are we getting in your way? Are you putting? Is the yogya here or there? Where's the yogya going to be? No, that's not my question. I said, where's the yogya? Is it in this room or that room?
Here.
Okay, so if we're in the way, just tell us.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Well, my question: why in Ukraine? I mean, if you're going to go anywhere sinful in this world, I don't think Ukraine's any. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what goes on there, but I don't think it's any more sinful than anywhere else, as far as I know. Maybe less. I've heard Ukrainian people I meet are pretty nice as far as people go. Not only that, but the Hare Krishna is more prominent in Ukraine than anywhere else on the planet, practically. In relative terminology. Tens of thousands of serious devotees there. There are about 60 temples or something like that. The country has less population than the UK. So it's an interesting question. Why is Krishna willing a war to go on there? Well, we may not be able to see or understand exactly what's happening or what the result of this will be. Sometimes we see in the course of history that there's the Lord allows these things to go on, that there's the demoniac forces, and when the devotional forces become prominent, the demoniac forces intervene and try to subdue the devotional forces. It's especially in this Kali Yuga, we see there's, physically speaking, there's no protection practically in terms of physical protection for the devotees. Very little. And what would you do if, what could we do, if there was some major issue, a small group of devotees? Krishna protects. As we hear here, Krishna protects sometimes. And people kill another, and sometimes even people protect one another. But that can change overnight, just like in Russia. I mean, the Russian or the Soviet times, Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union. There's a whole big historical thing which we're not going to get into, but it was part of the Soviet Union. In fact, Kiev was the origin, basically, of the Russian nation. So they have, it's like a slap in the face that it's not part of Russia anymore. And so it's a sensitive issue. Why? Such, horrible thing. Attacking people who were basically, you were brothers, friends, working together, family members. It's crazy. You see this on a localized level. Sometimes families turn against each other. Husband, wife turn against, even children turn against their parents, or sometimes, I guess, vice versa, but especially children sometimes turn against their parents. There's more to it than meets the eye, as they say. Karma is a very complex issue. As far as I understand, two things going on here. Karma, the individuals involved, there must be something maybe beyond their present lifetime, which is, playing out here. It may not be seen directly in this present lifetime. Otherwise, why not everywhere else? Many people are probably much more sinful. I don't mention countries, but in many countries, illicit activities are rampant, more than probably Ukraine. So maybe they'll get their karma, if you want to call that, later on. But then the force in action is the will of the Lord. Time has its purpose to bring about a situation which is, as we see in the 9th canto of Bhagavatam, for instance, there's a verse which describes how, the Lord wills or allows the opposing parties, the competitive parties, to accumulate lots of weapons, etc., so that they can use these against each other and kill each other. That doesn't seem to be the case here. So many innocent people are suffering, and persons who have no intention of fighting anyone are obligated to participate in these events, and one can justify and understand that different angles, but it's not a natural thing. It doesn't seem a necessary thing. Why is Krishna allowing this to happen? A lot of people will definitely question, lose their faith, whatever it may be. The devotees understand there's something more going on. The will of the Lord is not just only karmic reciprocation. The will of the Lord is also to facilitate the second part of this verse here, to bring pleasure to Krishna, or displeasure, to bring about a situation which will be more suitable, or maybe the time is to wind up a situation sometimes, and Krishna, just like he did with the Yadu dynasty. I mean, it's quite a weird event how they all got intoxicated, as is mentioned here, and fought with each other, killed each other, except for five or six members of the dynasty or dynasty. It's kind of odd. Well, there were reasons for that. You probably know them or read them. That after the Lord's departure and so on, no one didn't want to leave the descendants and so on. And they were too heavy. They were overburdened for the earth. And besides that, it was time for them to return. And those members who fought with each other are not the eternal associates of the Lord exactly. They're in various forms, mainly of persons who came down from the heavenly planets or from other sources to join the eternal associates in Dwarka. And they became, this was the way they left this world. They wouldn't have left otherwise. Got rid of them quickly after the Lord departed. He made an arrangement so they all went back where they came from. If they were from the heavens, they still had duties to perform there, or whatever, etc. So the Lord himself, also it's time for his pastimes to end. So the Lord has arrangements. It's time for some change to take place, whatever that may be. But all externally, but internally, the change enhances. The genuine devotee's devotion goes deeper. It brings more compassion out. It brings more surrender. It brings more dependence upon the Lord for his protection. It brings out the Lord's protection for the devotees is to facilitate what they need to advance in Krishna consciousness. And externally it may appear otherwise, as we see in the case of the conflict in Ukraine. But it's bringing out, in many people, not just the devotees, what's necessary for them to give them a chance, at least, spiritually, that is, to progress in spiritual life. Well, those who don't have any knowledge of the spiritual nature of the soul, everything is judged on the external platform. So it doesn't seem, there's not much favorable you can say about this if you only have material knowledge. So enlightened society understands that, behind the material factor, which is, you could say, basically karmic, and whatever, behind that is the spiritual hand of the Lord, and the soul, the spirit soul, the factor of the soul, and our eternal relationship with Krishna. So Krishna is also simultaneously trying to help the soul, release the soul through his energies sometimes, to release the soul from this attachments to the material world, release the soul from their identification and their dependence on the material world. So those who are pious, they'll take shelter of the Lord. Those who are not pious, they won't. And such incidences certainly affect the whole world. Everything that goes on has this same factor. Do we take shelter of Krishna, or do we take shelter of circumstances, results, interaction with others, etc.? If we have the second factor, then we'll be generally tossed around by the duality of this world. If we take the first path of depending on Krishna, even though there appear to be unfavorable circumstances around one's internally, those are favorable. They're favorable because we're helpless. We see this occurring many times in the Srimad Bhagavatam and other Puranas here and there and everywhere, that devotees find themselves in very difficult situations sometimes. Whether it's Draupadi in the middle of the Kauravas assembly, or Queen Kunti facing one problem after another. That's just on an individual level, or in general, Kamsa harassing all the devotees, or Vena or somebody, and sometimes very fiercely harassing them. Demonic mentality is there. So the real protection is not a devotee says, you do what you like with me, Lord, my Lord, because you're not the body. It's not a question of protecting the body only, which is what materialistically speaking people would see it as. But it's actually protecting the real welfare of the soul, the spiritual well-being of the individual. Even those who are in ignorance can have the opportunity of freeing from karma, and maybe giving them an opportunity now to really become more Krishna conscious. Externally speaking, in Ukraine, many people have become more favorable to Krishna consciousness now, have questioned things a lot. In fact, book distribution increased last year in Ukraine. Can you believe it? It increased. Food for Life increased probably 100 times or more. And people's appreciation of Krishna consciousness in general, wherever it's been exposed, is very much enhanced. Not very nice, but devotees are willing to undergo this sacrifice for the welfare of others. Taking this, maybe they're obligated, but taking this risk also for the spiritual well-being of others, which they may interpret as material well-being to some extent, but it can awaken a spiritual question mark, a spiritual search, when there is something, even sometimes in demoniac people, they question their actions. Kamsa questioned his actions after he tried to kill the 8th child of Devaki. And for a short while there, he actually repented for what he did. Didn't last long, but it created some kind of awakening in his heart. Maybe, I've got it wrong. The protection of the Lord for the devotees is to protect their consciousness, to protect them from fear, to protect them from entanglement in this world. As we see recurring again and again, the pastimes of Prahlad Maharaj and his prayers and so on and so forth. So it's seen differently by different persons. From the Lord's point of view, he knows what's best for the children. And from our point of view, it varies. Some people take it differently. But from a devotee's point of view, he accepts the will of the Lord in every situation, whatever happens. And he tries to act according to that will. And he tries to help others also to see things according to that will. And if it takes sometimes some harsh situation to see it like that, then at least the devotee, maybe others don't see like that, but the devotee sees it's worth it. If going through that struggle, that difficulty, whatever, helps us to actually strengthen our Krishna consciousness, it can be seen as worth it, although we may not be very welcoming of these difficulties. Like in Russia during the communist era, where there was so much, you could say, punishment inflicted upon the devotees by the powers that be. But for those devotees, most of them, I've heard, a little bit from one or two, but I've heard that many, if not all, felt much stronger in their Krishna consciousness in that difficult situation than when that difficult situation wasn't so apparent. We forget sometimes that death is on our doorstep at every moment. At every moment. This is Martya Loka, it's the world of death. It's not our natural position. To expect utopia in this world is an illusion. There is no utopia in the material world. Material world is a place of birth and death. We're not meant to stay here. What is God supposed to do? He's supposed to remove death altogether, remove old age altogether, remove disease and so on altogether. He can do that, but what's the point? What's the purpose of doing it? That exists in the spiritual realm. In this material world where we're separated from the Lord, where we're not interested in pleasing Krishna, we just want to please ourselves. So Krishna is trying to help transform that false understanding. Not everyone sees it like that. Misunderstood. Krishna's reciprocal. You don't want to believe in God? Okay. You arrange some situation where your faith in Him is eclipsed, is subdued, and covered over for some time. And the devotees simultaneously are trying to uncover it. So this is going on. It increases the need. Sometimes it's a wake-up call. A wake-up call. Come on, don't take it easy. Don't think, we're on top of the world. Everything's fine. Everything's roses. It's not. The material world is the material world, and death is samasitiye padapalavam mahatpadam punya yashomarai marari. There's death, danger at every step. Even without stepping, there's danger all around us. So we don't know exactly, even the great devotees sometimes can't analyze exactly why the Lord does this or that, but ultimately it's for the benefit of one and all, or at least to give them a chance to become fortunate, whatever goes on. Or maybe it's the Kali Yuga situation, where there will be polarization between devotee and demon. It's an aspect of Kali Yuga. There's so much polarization in the world today. Whatever the reason may be, ultimately, it's the will of the Lord. He allows it. When we say we hear the will of the Lord, it's not that He necessarily, is like just playing a game like that purposely. Oh, that'd be fun. No, it's not like that. He allows these things. His will, it's like Prabhupada says in his poem, Markandeya Bhagavat Dharma, by your will they can be delivered. By your will they come into this world and become conditioned in illusion, and by your will they can be delivered. Then Prabhupada says, it is my will that you deliver them. So the will of the devotee becomes very strong, especially when there's danger. Their good wishes, their prayers for the welfare of others, they usually become more prominent and effective. And it doesn't mean in this lifetime either. That will can carry them into a better situation in their next lifetime. So it can be a win-win situation, you could say. For the conditioned soul, without their knowledge, they can progress in spiritual life. Because of the will of the devotee, the Lord reciprocates with the will of the devotee also. And what does that mean? That means that the living entity chooses. It's not that Krishna just whimsically throws them into this material world. It's my will, you guys, I don't like your hairstyle. I'm throwing you into the material world. It's not like that exactly. But it's the will of the living entity, and without the will of the Lord, you can't come into the material world. And even if we are doing everything we can to try to please the Lord, without His will, we cannot get out of this world either. So everything depends on the will of the Lord, because everything is His energy. It's not under our control. When we think we're the controllers, then sometimes Krishna gives us a little slap, as you may give a little admonishment to your children if they get out of hand and start thinking there's something they're not. You know, you're not the boss around here. I mean, some people may treat their kids like that, I don't know. But sometimes they do. And they give a little bit of admonishment to their child to try to make them realize they're not the boss around here, you know. Getting too big for your boots. Get back. Oh, I mean, that's kind of a bit graphic. Something like that. You know, sometimes we get a little bit carried away and we put God out of the picture. So sometimes we have to realize we're not the controllers. It's not within our control. And that can have a humbling effect sometimes also. Well, we're going to finish there because I've got to get on now with the next program. And let's get ready for it. I think it's supposed to start at 10 o'clock here in the temple, I guess. And then there'll be another program immediately following after that. A kirtan program from 12 till whatever, I don't know. Who's organizing it? Who is organizing the kirtan program? Which individual? Name?
It's usually the KC Sock.
It's not a person. I can't talk to KC Sock. Who is the person? Madhava is going to be here or not?
He should be here.
He'll be at 10 o'clock.
He will be coming, okay. So he's organizing the schedule for the kirtan?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's already got the schedule already there.
Yeah, I know, but then when you get, like for instance, if Radhanath Maharaj were to walk in the door right now, would you ask him to lead kirtan or say, sorry, we've already got a full schedule? So and sometimes changes are made because unexpected events take place. So we may talk to him about that. Yeah. You probably have this once a month or something, or once a year? What
Yeah,
do you do?
we have kick on Sundays at the end of the month.
Once a month, so they may do us here all the time, but someone who's only here once in a lifetime, it's a little different, isn't it? I mean, if Bibi Govinda Maharaj were to walk in now, you'd probably change the schedule, would you not?
Probably.
Probably. Or if Madhava were to walk in the door unexpectedly, would you change the schedule much, like you think? No?
I think he wants to continue with it.
Huh?
I think he wants to continue with the schedule. I don't know.
He'd what? I didn't hear.
He probably wants to continue with the schedule.
I doubt it. If Madhava Prabhu were to walk in the door right now, everyone would walk out if he kept on the schedule. This guy's nuts. Yeah.
Because Maharaj is here.
Well, he's in class. You're giving class. Okay, Bhagavatam. Prabhupada walks in the room. Well, Haribol, Prabhupada, can we sit down? I'm giving class today.
Yeah.
Of course you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Or your Guru Maharaj.
Yeah.
So maybe some adjustment can be made just to, let's see, whatever. Hare Krishna, any comments or questions? You're tired, Guridas Prabhu. That's one comment. Okay.
It's about the Russian devotees. I had experience there. I was in Vrindavan, and there's a mass, crowd of devotees from Russia in Vrindavan,
Russian devotees in India have been there for decades.
But they've got like their own.
Yeah, they've got their own ashram, a huge building. Mayapur also, the Russian devotees there's thousands of Russian devotees in India, right? Not only in India, in other places too, they're all over the world. You know, what can you say? Our business is not to get into politics or, finding fault in policies and individuals and this and that you can conclude, but obviously a devotee is not happy wherever you are in this world with the materialistic, policies of different degrees. I mean, Prabhupada praised the American government in many ways for allowing him to establish Krishna consciousness there, but in many other ways he didn't, It depends which way you're looking at it. So many devotees have left Russia for various positive reasons. I mean, they find maybe their devotional service is more enhanced in India. Maybe they're having difficulties in Russia dealing with maybe some repression or what, I don't know. Different reasons are there. But everything has another side to it. Devotee sees somehow or another Krishna's hand working everywhere. And even an unfavorable situation for a devotee can be seen very favorably. Queen Kunti was, in one sense, praying like that. Maybe these difficulties happen again and again, and if ever you've been in a really difficult situation in your life, or at least you realized you were, is often the best times of your life for Krishna consciousness. I don't know if anyone's noticed that, but often it is. You've got no recourse but to take shelter of Krishna. There's no other shelter. You can't depend on the normal, temporary, fallible soldiers. That must say, that's the Supi. You can't depend on them. They're not able to protect you. Even at death, who can protect you?
No doctor can cure you. Nobody can protect you.
Even if you are living in a peaceful situation, and you do have the best medical treatment, and you do have a healthy lifespan, and you do have money, and you do have lots of nice people around you, etc., you're still going to die, and nobody can protect you. Right? And we take it for granted. You live a life and you think, we're lucky, we're very lucky. Krishna's very kind to us. We got everything material. But, you sometimes take it for granted like a spoiled child. And when you're put in difficulties sometimes, you have no choice. You have two choices, this way or that way. But for those little pious, they really can take shelter of Krishna because there is no other shelter. You chant like anything. And I'm sure you've all just read that article, I don't remember her name, one young lady from Kazakhstan almost. Have you read it, that article? It's in a lot of forums, I believe. I saw it in Dandavats yesterday, if you know what Dandavats is. Dandavats is probably the most official ISKCON public news forum, probably. There are many, numerous other forums, individual or whatever. But it's all, isn't it right, Manand? It's all over the place, isn't it, that article? It came up on our French Sankirtan forum. It's probably on hundreds of forums all over the world. It's going, what they call, wildfire, what do they call it, when something spreads like everywhere?
Virus.
Huh? Viral. It's gone viral. Is that right? It's gone viral. Probably millions of people have read it, probably. Or at least hundreds of thousands of. It doesn't look like necessarily anything when you look at another article in Dandavats, but I don't know the title. But when you get stuck in, it's like, wow, what on earth is going on here? This is quite eye-opening. Even if it was only a story, but apparently it's completely real.
Did you experience the near-death
Near-death experience, yeah. You read it?
No, I've got it here. I've not read it. It's too long.
It is quite long. It takes about 10 minutes to read if you're a reasonably fast reader. Yeah. So I would suggest you read it. It can be something, at least food for thought. Even we're not ready to act on it, at least it's something that's like, I better think about that. We're not in control at the time of death, It's only Krishna's protection that can help you. Most people are totally out of control. They have none. All they're seeing is their activities and consequent karmas unfolding before them. You have no control at all over it. None. None. I mentioned something along those lines yesterday, if you were there in the talk, of that personal experience of that in my earlier life. You have zero control. You're just a witness of unwanted reactions. Anyway, it's a long, you could say, science of karma. But, yeah. So she had a very graphic experience of this, real life experience. And it went much further than just seeing the negative side. The positive side was also seen, and the importance of... So really one of the reasons Prabhupada, again and again, why he installed deities everywhere. Most of us are not really qualified, and many of you, some of us are more qualified, but in general it's not the Kali Yuga process. The Kali Yuga. Why? So that picture of the deity will be in your mind. You know, you think of the deities, right? Isn't it? So many things. Why does Prabhupada say you should learn Brahma Samhita, the prayers of Lord Brahma, Chintam, anyway? Because it will come up when you're out of control, when the intelligence has no control whatsoever. Zero.
Krishna is the cause of all causes.
The cause of all causes, but not just the meaning of those prayers, the mere fact that they're vibrating in your consciousness because they've been so embedded there. Otherwise, all the other things which are embedded come up. That's the danger. Of course, ultimately, Krishna is there for the devotee, but you have to go through that painful experience of, fear until, that comes, but unwinding all those things, and then eventually Krishna comes. But it's, it's important to cultivate. Prabhupada writes, so at the time of death, and he cites the example of Gajendra the elephant, how in an absolutely helpless situation, suddenly those prayers which he recited in his previous life came to the forefront at some point of time. Having tried everything else to defend himself, he failed. And at that point he surrendered and those prayers came up. So it's important to do, especially in regards to kirtan, and especially in regards to the Yugadharma congregational chanting. That was the whole essence of this. The importance of congregational chanting and taking shelter of the holy name and not using the holy name for some other agenda. Anyway, you read it and judge for yourself. We're finished. We're finished.
Sorry for the disturbance.
There is no disturbance at all. And if anything, we're disturbing your service, so we apologize. You go ahead as if we're not here. Okay? Thank you. You need anything? Or
no.
Okay. So under control. Okay.